Okay, very good. So it's a great honor to talk to you. I'm from Switzerland. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. So I got up very early to attend this conference. What I would like to do today with you is share, first of all, my passion about the microbiome. And what you can see here is the microbiome of a kiss. And you may know, if you kiss a person, around 60 million bacteria are transmitted. And this is not just a random kiss. This is actually the kiss of my wife. She kissed on an agar plate, and a friend of us, Martin Oegerli, you can see his name here on the top lower right corner, he's an artist and he calls himself the Micronaut. And this picture won the Science Award in 2019 of National Geographic. Now you understand that microbes are fascinating on various levels, and you hear it here in the conference. So even kissing is important for our health and well-being. Now, my name is Adrian Egli. I'm director at the Institute of Medical Microbiology at the University of Zurich in Switzerland. And I'm a member of the Microbiota Vault pilot project team. And I would like to share with you, in behalf of my colleagues, I will introduce them in a second, the experiences of the Microbiota Vault pilot project. So I want to briefly show to you what is the Microbiota Vault, who is behind it, what are our goals in the launch phase where we currently are, and then also share with you some progress we have made during the past year. So what is the Vault? The Microbiota Vault is a global non-profit initiative to conserve long-term health for humanity. And we mainly focus on the biodiversity of human-associated microbiomes. This was the original core focus. Now we are also considering to expand this to food and other sources. But the principle stays the same. It's about biodiversity, and we want to collect, preserve, and enable biodiversity-related research with a focus, obviously, on the microbiome. If you're interested to read more about our wonderful initiative, then please go and visit our website, microbiotavault.org. So who is behind the Vault? The idea originally is from US colleagues, and you can see them here on the left side, a very diverse and large group of people who are interested in microbiological research and microbiome especially. And a very, very important driving force is Maria Gloria Dominguez and Martin Blaser, who both, push this incentive with such an energy, unbelievable, and very, very good discussions we have here. For various reasons, the idea was to put the Vault into Switzerland. This has political reasons due to stability, the infrastructure and resources we have in Switzerland to set up this Vault as a backup situation. And we have a pilot team, and I want to mention here also dear colleagues like Dominik Steiger, I think he's in the call, Manuel Fankhauser. Also, these two are mainly working on concepts, strategical elements, legal aspects, and administration. Then we have a scientific core team, and that's myself, and then Nikola Bokulic from ETH Zurich. You may have read his name because he is one of the co-developers of GloMiNe, a very important metagenomic software. And then we have Pascal Fonège at the University of Lausanne, who is focusing on nutrition and microbiomes in low-income countries. She's mainly working in African countries. Okay, so the inspiration came actually from the Global Seed Vault. And maybe you have heard about this. This is a secure backup facility for the world's crop diversity on a Norwegian island of Spitsbergen in the Arctic archipelago. The Seed Vault provides basically a duplicate of seeds and is security for the world's food supply against the losses of seeds, for example, due to mismanagement, accidents, unfortunately also wars, natural disasters, and so on. And they have conserved more than 1 million distinct crop samples, and the storage, they store them at -20 degrees. So the vault was founded in 2019, but before that there was a very good science article providing basically the basic idea of the vault, and a feasibility study was done. I will say a few words on that on the next slide, and we are now organizing and supporting this global microbiota network incentive, basically, with various symposia. Currently have is actually the third. There was also one focusing on the geographic region of Africa and Latin America. And the launch phase started in 2021, and I will later on show you a bit more about that. So the feasibility study was a success. They basically showed that there's a great significance and the potential of such a vault as a backup plan. Just to kind of mention that again, the idea is not that the samples can be used in Switzerland for research. It's really a backup solution for the countries and the researchers submitting this. It's like secured, like in a Swiss bank, you may know from a James Bond movie or so. So the idea is really to store them very securely and to preserve them for, you know, a long time. And when you need them again, you can access these samples again. So, and now we are doing a 2-year launch phase. And in this launch phase, we have 2 main goals. The first one is a proof of principle, basically, to show some infrastructure and you know, standardization processes around sampling. The second point is establishing of a management capability. As you can imagine, to organize such an organization requires a lot of dedication. You need to understand the international networks, you need to understand legal frameworks in different countries, how can samples be shipped between countries, and so on. So that's quite a long process, and there we continuously work on. On the top part, the proof of principle. So first of all, we build a biobanking infrastructure in Switzerland for this vault. We initiate collaborative projects, now test projects, let's say, with local working collections. We think about standardization of how the samples are collected, how they are shipped, how they are stored. And we also think about characterizing those samples. So how do we sequence them? What data is required for an efficient data analysis? And the launch period has 7 work packages. In the first one, these are the governance structure and the legal elements I've mentioned. In the second work package, we look about validation and standard operating procedures for the collection and the storage of fecal samples. In work package 3 and 4, we focus on the interaction with local working collections. In work package 5, it's all about storage of the samples here in Switzerland. In work package 6, it's about data generation. So what kind of data, how do we manage data, and so on. And in work package 7, it's about the metagenomics. How do we sequence, what protocols do we use, and so on. And there's really a lot of progress being made, and the team of Pascal Fonesch, for example, and I will show that on the next slide a bit more in detail. There are experiments on different storage conditions over a year, and we do a very tight quality control and see what is the best storage conditions for these samples. My team is focusing on the storage itself, but also on sequencing of the strains. And Nicola Bokulic, who has a very strong bioinformatic background, is basically focusing on the development of an analytical platform. Now, this is not possible without funding. And I really want to highlight here that we have wonderful partners, especially C-Ray Foundation and Gerbert Rueff, who provided funding to kick this off, and later on additional important foundations came supporting us, Rockefeller Foundation and the Oak Foundation. So work package 1, that's the data governance. Just to briefly explain this again, or the governance of the whole incentive, basically. So we have here a US non-profit corporation, which organizes fundraising, and the funds go to the local working collections and the biobank. And this is then the Swiss, let's say, Swiss vault where the samples will actually be stored. And we are thinking about the best legal structure. Most likely this will be an association at the end. Then work package 2, the validation of different storage conditions, just to kind of give you a hint on this rather complex slide here. So we've collected from 15 individuals, from 5 babies, 5 children, and 5 adults, stool samples. They were sequenced with 16S sequencing. They were also plated to get an idea of what is actually growing in these samples. Excuse me. And then these samples were split into different storage conditions. So here you can see various media which were used, but we also then stored the samples at liquid nitrogen and at -80. And we have a third layer. This is lyophilization. And now these samples are almost a year in the freezer. Some of them were already a year in the freezer. They were now transferred to my center, and we are currently conducting a reculture and also sequencing to basically find out what preserves the best biodiversity, which freezing condition works best. So work package 5 is the infrastructure building for the storage. So we bought a -80 freezer, an N2 tank to actually work now with different local connections. So we are talking with a research group in Puerto Rico and in Ethiopia to basically get these samples and store them for a moment. And the goal is to store a total of 2,000 samples from different countries. On the long term, we aim to buy a bunker from the Swiss Army to really have the storage there. But currently, due to the war in the Ukraine, these bunkers are no longer available for sale, and we have to see how this develops. But we are working on this. Work package 6, this is the data analysis, and what you can see here is a GloMiNe2, a next flow workflow where the sample, the raw sequences are processed, etc. I will not go here into the detail, but this is obviously an important part because before we put the samples into the vault, we want to characterize them so that they do not need to be taken out, that there is already an assessment. And this is a very important step. Now, what are the take-home messages for you listening to me now in this talk? First of all, I think it's very clear that storage of the microbiota is very, very important. There's a loss of biodiversity, which we currently observe due to multiple and complex reasons. I will not list them here. I think you will have talks about this. So it's very important to preserve this biodiversity. And the key to that is that we have standardized protocols, how we collect the samples, how we store them, how we sequence and analyze them. And this is a very important aspect because it will make our scientific efforts also more reproducible. And because all these steps, the collection, the storage, they can introduce important biases. And we should at least know about these potential biases we face in a sample. The Microbiota Vault pilot is in the pilot phase. It's ongoing. In a year, I hope I can present to you really final results and tell you which is the best working conditions in our hands, at least. Then it's about to optimize and push standardization. And this is something which we do heavily with capacity forming. We also want to release these standard operating procedures. And we want to generate a safe harbor for low and middle income countries who do not have the resources to store samples for 50 years or longer. And with this, I actually would like to thank you for your attention. I want to mention again my dear colleagues, Maria Gloria Dominguez, Pascal, Nicola, Dominic, and Manuel, who support this. If you want to read more about my own research and what I do, visit the website and follow me on Twitter. I do not have a lot of Twitter followers. I'm actually not sure if Twitter is so popular in Asia, but in Europe it quite is. And please contact me if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adrian. I think this is very important work to preserve those biodiversity or microbiota, and the biobank is very important. So we'll leave the question to the end of this section.